Sleek, sexy, ultra high DPI, adjustable click pressure, epic gaming performance and aesthetics, and glorious RGB lighting. The Razer Mamba Chroma is everything you could want in a gaming mouse, and here is why you shouldn't buy it. Hello and welcome back to the only channel on YouTube that asks, what? Now, about a year ago, I decided to trade in my Logitech M705 for something a little more powerful, impressive, and RGB lit. Wow, I hate myself. Anyway, I looked into various options from various brands, including Logitech's MX Master, Asus's ROG Spatha, or whatever the heck they call it,
Spatha,
and Razer's own Lance Head. But none of those really spoke to me the way Razer's Mamba Chroma Wireless did. It was the only one I really liked the look of, the only one that had RGB everywhere, including on the charging dock, and it was also the only one that made me feel all giddy inside. So I bought it for around 2,300 Rand or $160. A steep price and by far the most I've ever paid for any peripheral. But I convinced myself that for everything I was getting, it was definitely going to be worth it. Except it wasn't, at least not for long. My experience with the mouse, at least initially, was pretty amazing. It and everything it came with felt and looked ultra premium, just like you'd expect from something at this price point. The RGB lighting on the mouse and dock looked absolutely gorgeous. The DPI adjustment buttons were a lifesaver, especially after I configured them to my preferred playstyle. And just overall, it seemed like the mouse I had always wanted. Unfortunately, my issues with the mouse kind of started about a month after owning it. The first of which was the RGB lighting between the mouse and its charging dock just kind of breaking entirely after an update. The lighting on the mouse and the dock worked perfectly fine on their own, but as soon as they're in the same room, they're like Linus and any footwear that isn't socks and sandals. It just doesn't work. And this isn't exactly a new issue either. Before even buying the mouse, I was warned by a fellow reviewer that something like this might happen, but the idea of the RGB lighting between the dock and mouse just kind of breaking on its own, purely from a software update, just seemed so ridiculous to me that I didn't heed that warning. And now here we are. Since then, I've tried about everything I can trying to get the lighting on the dock and the mouse to sync up, or even work at all when in wireless mode. About once a month since owning the mouse, I've re-fired up my investigation and troubleshooting engines to try and figure out how to get it to work, and I'm still trying to figure that out. Because of that and the hassle of charging the mouse far too often for my liking, I've been using it in wired mode ever since. Which means that the premium I paid to go wireless and do it in style really bit me in the ass here. But hey, as annoying as it was not being able to appreciate all the RGB glory that the mouse and dock are supposed to be capable of, at least I still had a wired ultra high performance gaming mouse that should help me rack up those wins. Well, kind of. The mouse was super comfy to use, extremely accurate, and overall it delivered the performance I was hoping for. Unfortunately, that was only the case when the Razer Synapse software wasn't being a big old turd. I mean, the software is fine on a good day. It lets me switch between lighting profiles, DPI stages, and allows for a whole lot of other customization. But on a bad day, I hate it so much. My issues with the software range from mild annoyance, like the DPI indicator bar thing just not showing up when it's supposed to, all the way up to the mouse just breaking down and all the way up to the mouse just straight up breaking down and having a little cry. At least twice a week I'd run into an issue where if I adjusted the mouse DPI to a lower value, it would trigger something in it that makes the mouse just move horizontally. And that's all it can do. After locking itself into this horizontal purgatory, cranking the DPI back to a higher number usually fixes the issue, or at least until the next time the mouse has a little performance anxiety. Another software/hardware issue I had was that the mouse is very port selective. Right from the get-go, the mouse always preferred one specific USB port at any given time, and if I ever needed to change it to a different port, the RGB lighting would just simply break. Luckily, software updates, system reboots, and switching the mouse to a completely identical port, or a combination of all three of those, would get it to work again. But as time went on, the ports where the mouse would actually light up like it's supposed to became fewer and fewer. And before you call foul on my motherboard, I have tested the mouse on other systems and various other ports. And it's not the systems, it is the mouse. It hates USB ports. So shut up. Now, even more unfortunately, the mouse's issues aren't exclusively due to temperamental software. Recently, I've discovered even more not annoying at all mechanical issues with the mouse. The first and most minor of these are these rubber grips on the side of the mouse. These ones right there and right there. So while gaming, this whole thing just kind of comes apart and slides down the mouse, which is extremely annoying. But it is a minor issue and one I kind of expected to have with the mouse eventually. I was just hoping that since it didn't happen already, it might never do it, but meh. Something I didn't expect though was an issue that almost makes the mouse entirely unusable. That's right, even though I've gone over various other issues I've had with the mouse, I was always able to kind of overlook them if I tried hard enough. This one, however, I can't ignore no matter how hard I try. And it's the mother friggin' scroll wheel. This scroll wheel, I hate it. I hate it so much. Yep, nothing as interesting as the mouse randomly electrocuting me, but I can assure you, it's almost as annoying. Just a few weeks ago, I noticed that my characters in FPS games would randomly switch weapons, even during firefights, causing me to lose said firefights. I, of course, immediately suspected the mouse because I'm kind of used to it giving me a whole lot of crap, but at least initially it didn't happen more than like once or twice a match. Fast forward to now though, and it happens constantly. Whenever I play any FPS games, I need to change back to the weapon I actually want to use at least once every 10 seconds, which is, needless to say, completely unacceptable. This annoyance even sticks around when I'm not gaming. Website scrolling, folder exploration, and even volume adjustment has become a chore, whereas before it wasn't even something I would ever think about. After a lot of troubleshooting and rooting out that it is not a fault of the software, I narrowed it down to the scroll wheel being faulty in some way. The unwanted scrolling happens in about 50% of the little scroll wheel steps, and happens far more often when my finger is just resting on the wheel, and also happens a lot when I readjust my mouse placement. In that last case, it's very clearly the minor impact from lifting the mouse up and putting it down again that triggers the scroll wheel to just go haywire. And since I usually play at very low DPI, mouse repositioning isn't exactly something I can avoid. It's also not something I should have to avoid. And that's the whole point I'm trying to make here. Almost all of the issues I've had with the mouse, I've kind of had to get used to, and even some of the newer ones I've been trying to ignore. But look, for 3,200 Rand, or about 160 bucks, I really shouldn't have to. No one should have to. Razer is known for producing pricier but higher quality gear, and it's one of the biggest reasons I chose to give them my money. But in this case, color me severely unimpressed, which is why, until I can find a better replacement, I'm seriously considering switching back to my Logitech M705, and recommend that you think long and hard before considering buying the Razer Mamba Chroma Wireless. Something you should consider though is supporting me on Patreon. Until I reach my subscriber and watch time goals and start raking in those sweet YouTube cents, support for my Patreons is the only remuneration I get for these videos. This support goes towards growing the channel and improving the quality and quantity of the videos I produce. So if you want to join these legends, please do check it out. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video or found it interesting at all, hit the like button, and while you're down there, hit subscribe so you'll see my face more often, because that's a thing you definitely want. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Okay, thanks, bye. Look at this hair, man. Holy crap. I did not realize it was this long. Oh, wow. Is this creepy? This looks kind of creepy. What if I just open videos like this from now on?